Hi, everybody. It's Bill Simmons again with Pacific Coast Broadband Connect. With me this episode is Noel Heredia with Digital Value Creations. Noel, you've been with us. I'm joining our consortium meetings now for a number of months, and I don't know if everybody has had the opportunity to meet you. And so, what I was hoping to do is just give you this opportunity to introduce yourself, talk about digital value creations, the space that you work in and live in. Tell us about yourself.
Thanks for the opportunity, Bill. Been really interesting working with you and the team, and maybe a good chance for me to tell you a little bit about my background. I'm an electrical engineer who's practiced hardware design, development, and manufacture for 17 years before recognizing the lack of capacity in the software engineering process management space. So that was my focus for over a decade, and now I'm using both these areas of expertise and experience to address challenges at an organizational and enterprise level. These challenges run the gamut from adoption of digital systems to serve evolving business needs to even helping retire obsolete systems that still bedevil us. The often unrecognized reality of these scenarios is that value propositions, value creation, and value delivery needs to be all reimagined. People who pretend that things will just keep going on or just go off this way and that, they have to reimagine them and to remain relevant and competitive. Which brings
Noel, what really amazes me, and I've learned from you time and time again in our conversations, I tend to look at things regionally, and that's been my life experience. But you've come out of a global community. You've worked for the big guys, you worked for the big companies, and you've done this around the world. You have a much broader perspective than I in terms of how these pieces connect. And I just think that's so interesting.
It indeed has. I mean, I'm really grateful for the opportunity of having had to work in many corners of the world. I was just sharing with somebody that I was working in. I did a project in Mauritius, of all places. It takes 7 hours from Dubai to fly down to Mauritius. But it's very interesting, the sort of capacity and capability that exists even in a place like that. And that's the reason why we have to reimagine everything. A lot of people's mindsets are stuck in that of the turn of the last century. And what we need to do is reimagine them. So my company that I established over 5 years ago serves nonprofits and small businesses. I play the role of a chief technology officer on a part-time basis. I join the leadership team of these enterprises to strategize and plan how they can use the vast range of digital technologies and services that are available to operate and become competitive with the big guys. And companies many times their size, something that I appreciate. I mean, my previous life, before I started this, I was working on the other side of the wire, if you will. And I'm happy to say, sounds a little arrogant, but the quality and caliber of the services that I can provide to this group of people is no less than if they would have engaged a big consulting firm, except that, of course, I like to think that we are much more practical, realistic, and affordable.
You and I, as small consultants, having worked in small business now for a number of years, we know that Davids can overcome Goliaths all the time, and they do in the innovation space.
I do believe that in the future really belongs to this particular group in the economy, the small businesses and the nonprofits.
So you've been joining us in the broadband area. I mean, where do you come into that conversation? What have you been thinking? What have you been seeing? What are your thoughts about where we're going, what we're trying to do?
So this conversation has been going on for a long time. Everybody wants to get your attention. We'll talk about broadband. So as a society and economy, we have experimented for decades with a variety of models of ownership and management to optimize and serve our socioeconomic needs. The data from these experiments points to the wisdom of adopting a public-private partnership to harness the value of digital technologies and services that have emerged in the last 30 years and become the core of the current industrial socioeconomic revolution. The foundation of this revolution is what we commonly describe as broadband. There is no argument that broadband merits recognition as the fourth utility alongside water, electricity, and gas. That being said, it is a perfect setting for a public-private partnership, much like privately owned vehicles travel on publicly funded and managed roads. The good news is that this is not just a concept. Broadband has been successfully operated in a public-private model in pioneering communities around the country. So I think that's where I'm really excited. And now that it's a matter of taking a proven model and customizing it to serve the needs of each community, refining it as we progress. This is very doable because it's not some vast, monolithic, grand project for investment and construction, but an approach that every community can decide the scale and capacity of what they want and when they want to do it, and get to calibrate the implementation speed of a high performance broadband utility service that can be foundational to the economic growth and move to a greater socioeconomic inclusion.
I really appreciated your help in coming up with the 3 I's model. You know, when you talk about linking infrastructure to inclusion to innovation, how we connect those dots. I mean, you've been very, very instrumental in just putting that message together that these dots do connect and people need to see these connections.
That's right, and I'm really excited to be part of this effort. You know, this is the real revolution as people begin to realize that they have control at the local and the community level. They don't have to depend on some large corporation coming in and building something up and then them doing something after that. This is their own achievement.
Noel, we're going to look forward to hearing more from you. We appreciate all that you've done, and we know that you're going to be doing a lot more, and we'll be wanting to make room, lots of room for your big ideas. And just thank you for being with us today.
I look forward to being part of this whole revolution. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, that's it for this episode of Pacific Coast Broadband Connect, and we'll look forward to connecting with you next time.
Thank you.